Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Mocktail Minutes. This is Bailey.
And this is Brianna.
This week I am drinking, it's called Slice. It's like a dirty soda, but it has prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. Only 3 grams of added sugar. What flavor is this? Oh, it's like a strawberry dirty soda, so it's not bad.
Yeah.
Pretty
I
good. I think I found it at Target, maybe.
feel like I'm sleeping on Target, like on their
They
fun
have some
drinks.
different fun drinks, like on one of their end cooler things.
Yeah. I got this at Sprouts, Once Upon a Coconut. I don't know if I've ever
Ooh.
had these on here, but it's just coconut water and pineapple. All of them are just coconut water and then some sort of flavor. It's very good.
Is it like a sparkling one or is it flat?
No, it's flat, which
That'd be
started
good.
shaking it. And I was like, I really hope this is flat. It's flat,
Good,
but it's
good.
really good.
Perfect. Yeah, because sometimes when you have the natural juices, they do settle at the bottom, and then you're like, oh, weird. There's all the pineapple.
Oh, yeah. This definitely needed to be shaken.
Yes. This week, we are talking about 5 things to consider before thinking your deficit isn't working. I feel like this can go a couple different ways. A lot of times we'll see people in a deficit and it's okay, you've been in a deficit for too long, or if it's too big of a deficit, or when we've worked closely with clients in a true deficit, then there are some things that we can spot where it's okay. It's not that, it's here's the things that aren't working for your deficit. Does that make sense how to put it that way?
Yeah, because I think when you're in a deficit, it's a lot of mental load because you're tracking, you're trying to make sure like you're in a deficit. And so a lot of times if people aren't losing weight, suddenly they're like, oh, it's a deficit. I need to go down, but not always. And I'm always so hesitant to just be like, okay, let's drop calories. Because usually some of these things we're going to talk about are like areas to focus on first. Because like we say all the time, less is not better.
So, yeah, the first thing I would say is your average weekly calories. And I will say like a caveat to this because like there was some logs I was looking at this past week and it would range from like 1500 to 2400 calories. So something like that, like I forget what the average was, but it was close to 2000, which was around her maintenance. I had her aim for 1700 because her really high calorie days were like days she was eating cake or would like grab a donut or a coffee out, where it's like the 1500 days were her normal. And so something like that I did I'm working to reverse diet her. But I think looking at your average weekly calories overall, so that way you can see also, does your week match your weekend? That is like one of the biggest things that we'll see is, oh, I did so good Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, but weekends are a little bit tougher, or you just don't log on the weekend because it's, oh, if I don't log, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could go either way too. It could be way too low, or it could be way too high, or alcohol. Alcohol is something that's not going to go towards your macros, but it will go towards your calories. So that can kind of throw some people off too.
And the whole not tracking on the weekend, I think it's a big roadblock for a lot of people because you will eat much more on the weekend. If like you're going out, whatever it is, you tend to do that. And it really can mess up your average calories. Like typically when I calculate someone's average, yeah, their week looks great. And maybe they're even under what they wanted to be for the week for one or for the day for 1 or 2 days. But then the weekend is putting them literally at their maintenance.
Your body likes consistency. I would say a myth is that you have to keep your body guessing, and so you should change up your calories all the time.
Yeah.
No, your body likes consistency, keeping it consistent Monday through Sunday for your calorie intake, but also your macros, because you don't want to be getting like 80 grams of protein one day and then you're like 150. You want a consistent macro balance that gives you consistent calorie intake.
Yeah. And I would say that's especially true with carbs because I will see some
Yeah.
people be like 80 and then 180. And I'm like, that's going to impact your perceived weight loss because that fluctuation of water. So sometimes that's a thing too. They're like, oh, I didn't lose any weight. And really it's just because on Sunday you decided to eat 200 calories and the rest of the week you didn't. So you look heavier. The next would be like your movement. And I'm talking movement outside, like obviously exercise. If you're in a calorie deficit, I really do hope you're strength training. With that being said, the movement you're doing outside of workouts, you need to really capitalize on that. And this is where I would focus on before changing your deficit. If you're not getting, I would say at least 8,000 steps a day, hopefully more, you definitely shouldn't be touching your deficit.
That's one of those foundational pieces that I would say too. Being at least at 8,000 a day, but like consistently throughout the day too is actually shown to be helpful rather than feeling like you have to get home and walk for an hour. Like
Hmm.
move all throughout your day, have those movement snacks put in, keep your body in motion. It'll actually help your energy as well. It'll help your appetite, it'll help you digest your food better. Movement throughout the day is going to be very beneficial as well. And
Hmm.
it gives you a little bit more of a natural deficit versus like having to decrease your food more.
Yeah, which is what I like to get the deficit from movement than just being like
Mhm.
eat less food. But
Yeah.
the
8,000
next,
steps is really not that hard.
it's
As
doable for sure.
it's definitely doable. You just have to be intentional. Like, I think that's the biggest hang up is like all of a sudden we want to increase our steps by 3,000, but we're not strategically doing it or focusing on anything that's actually going to increase our steps. We just think randomly our steps are going to get better tomorrow by doing the same thing we've done for the past week.
Hmm.
No, you have to be intentional. You have to create time maybe to add in some movement, especially if you have that desk job. But it gets easy because eventually you just get used to it and that becomes your new routine.
Hmm. And even things like parking at the back of the parking lot, using the bathroom on the second story, like just adding in more movement with the things you're already doing, all of that adds up. And I think people are quick to discredit it, but your movement, like, don't be touching your deficit if your movement is low. I think the next one is how are you measuring your food? And I think this is really probably the most important when it comes to fat, just because it is the most calories per gram. So sometimes I'll see like you can measure in volume or you can measure in weight. And if you are to measure a tablespoon of peanut butter, like what the serving size is, if you were to weigh out how much grams a tablespoon is supposed to be, it's usually wrong. Like you're usually off. So when you're doing like cheese and nut butters and nuts, all those things, not that you can't do it with protein and carbs. It's just if you overdo fat, you're going to be eating much more calories than you think you are. So maybe you're logging your food and you're trying to be meticulous about it, but your measurements are wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely making sure you measure correctly, or if you're logging it, that you're also measuring it.
Yeah.
Because if you're just, oh, it's probably a half a cup, just take the extra 30 seconds, grab a half cup measuring cup out of the
Yeah.
pantry or whatever, and measure it out. So that
Hmm.
way you know what you're logging is actually accurate. I think it definitely helps to have some information while logging, but the more accurate it is, the more you can understand like what's falling behind. Seeing, okay, is it actually half a cup or is it more like a fourth of a cup or a full cup? We don't know what we don't know. So it's taking that time to actually measure when you're logging it will make a big difference. I know for me, like pasta was one that I was consistently under eating just because I was like estimating. And then I finally measured it and I was like, oh, that makes sense why I'm a little hungrier. Being able to actually measure it. And again, it's not a hard thing to do. It's just that you're not used to it. So just taking that time to be like, okay, I just have to be a little bit more intentional with my meals so that way I can see what I'm actually eating, how much fat I'm actually getting. But yeah, especially with fat. And I think too, even if you're cooking with fat, that's still going to add up. So if you're like, I pull a tablespoon for the whole thing and I divided it by four, okay, it's going to be a little bit less than like a teaspoon. Just giving yourself something rather than nothing too. And I mean, out to eat, I would say do your best or find like
Hmm.
similar out to eat things. That's helpful too with tracking.
Yeah, which is the next thing, I think last thing, but it's how often are you eating out? If you are trying to be in a calorie deficit, it's really hard to be consistent with it if you're dining outside of the house often. There's always more sugar, more fat. That's just how it is. If you're going to a restaurant, there's always much more fat than you're thinking. And then even places like Kava or Chipotle or like the better options that I try to tell people to get, Unless the people are using the actual serving size, you are getting more or less than you think. And they're not using the serving size. Okay. So if you use your little calculator and you're like, okay, if I get a burrito bowl and I get XYZ, this should be 500 calories. It could easily be 800 calories or less than the 500, depending on how they're scooping things. So if you're, doing that like once a week, maybe twice a week, okay, as long as you're being consistent, it's probably not going to be the make or break. But if you're like, oh, I'm going to Chipotle every day for lunch, or we go out to eat 3 times on the weekend, I would focus there before moving your deficit because I guarantee you that's throwing you off.
Mm. And also thinking about like they're not as high quality carbs a lot of time. Burger, you're typically not going to get like a whole grain bun. So less quality carbs, more sodium. So those things can hold on to that water weight as well
Hmm.
and increase inflammation. And so we mentioned alcohol a little bit, but I would say like alcohol would be our biggest last one, which can also
Hmm.
gear up inflammation and add calories that we don't think about when we just focus on those macros. We also aren't going to digest our food as well. We're going to store carbs very easily. So alcohol too can slow your metabolism down for like
Hmm.
24 hours afterwards. So that's also not helping anything either. And definitely keeping alcohol under 2 days a week is going to be beneficial. And it's definitely a habit. I mean, I think like just deciding if you just like having a fun, different drink, spend money on like a poppy or something. Like that's what I started doing because I was like, I don't really want to drink, but like I could just have a lemonade and not add the vodka. And like people don't even question it. I just make it something you enjoy, make it something
Hmm.
different. Even we like we went out somewhere, we were at a wedding and like I got a Diet Coke. I hardly ever drink soda and I was like, I just want something fun and different. So I did Diet Coke and a lime. I would still say that's a better option than doing like vodka in it or rum, or
Yeah.
whiskey or anything. So thinking about how much you're doing alcohol, and I would say with all of this too, really consider how consistent are you really? This is a major thing, and I think it helps to have a habit tracker or something that like counts how often you're going out to eat because there are times where it's, oh, we're not going out to eat that much, but then we look at our week and it's, oh, we went out to lunch 3 times. Over the weekend, we went out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 times in a week. So really just being aware of how much are we actually doing this, where maybe it doesn't feel like a lot, but it's because that's what you're used to. We're like us, for example, like we go out to eat maybe like once a month. If we change that to 6 times in a week, like we would feel very off, we would feel bloated because we're not used to that, and that would feel like a lot. So I think really diving into how consistent are you really, or how often are you really doing these habits? Is this actually in moderation? Or is it happening more often than what we realize? So I think kind of
Hmm.
diving into how consistent are you with the habits can be helpful to as well.
Yeah. And I saw another, she's not a dietitian. She's some sort of exercise person, but I really like her. She was posting something about, and this is very true. If you don't have a lot of weight to lose, if you're at that last 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20, but 20 or less, your 80/20 is going to be very slow movement. So it might be one of those things where if you're really serious about losing that last bit of weight, you maybe go 90/10 for a month. See what happens. If you have a lot of weight to lose, you will lose a lot at first relatively
Yep.
quickly. But as soon as you start getting down to the like, I only have a little bit, your body is not really going to want to let go of that as easily. Because again, it doesn't need to survive. So maybe instead of 80/20, doing 90/10. But first, make sure you're at 80/20. Because when I have people take that aerial view, they're like, oh, I'm more like 60/40. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, really diving into that and seeing where you're truly at. And I think too, it's not that you have to be like the strict, rigid person either. Like you have the wiggle room. And yeah, if you want to be 60/40, cool, but don't expect it results that you would get at 90/10.
Yeah.
And that kind of comes with deciding are you flexible or are you focused right now. And I think that's the biggest mistake that we can make is it's what we're doing is not working, but we're only doing it like 3 days a week. Or it's I'm not losing weight, I'm not losing weight, but You've had the same goal of working out for the past 3 months that you haven't done. You know you're under eating, but we're not increasing your intake. You know that your fat's too high, but we haven't adjusted that yet. Can get us in almost like that victim mindset. Not ruffle any feathers here, but just I think it's a call out that we all need is maybe we're not as consistent as we think,
Mm-hmm.
but also it might take a little bit more work than what you're doing right now, which is not a bad thing. And
Yeah.
I don't think we have to enjoy every single thing either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't love mopping my floors, but I mean, it's nice to have a clean house, you know?
Right.
So sometimes we have to do things that we don't like just out of the necessity, and we're going to reap the benefits from it. So deciding, okay, if I'm going to be 60/40, I know I'm not going to get as great of results. If I'm going to be 90/10, I'm going to get better results.
Mm-hmm.
Neither is wrong. It just depends on what you want right now.
Yeah. And honestly, the victim mentality thing is a good thing to bring up because if you start thinking, I'm doing everything, nothing is working, that's going to really weigh on you, like, no pun intended. And you are going to start thinking, like, something's wrong with me. I can't lose weight. And then you're just feeding into everything online, being like, yeah, this is why let me help you with your weight
Yes, it's
loss
my
resistance.
hormones, it's my
Yeah.
cortisol, it's all these things. And like there's some times where I'm talking to people, I'm like, man, like what else do we need to do? And I have to like step back and like, we still aren't doing the strength training. We aren't hitting our macro goals.
Hmm.
And so like I can also get caught up in being like, oh, there's got to be something else. I'm like, well, wait
Yeah.
a second. Yeah, there could be, but we also need to do these foundational pieces first before we start the
Yep.
hormones, the cortisol, the thyroid issues, where it's like maybe there's not actually something wrong there. We just need to do original pieces to get us going and create that solid. But yeah, I've definitely found myself sometimes like talking to a client, what is going on? What can't we figure this out? I'm like, okay, just start with the things that we're already supposed to be working on
Yeah. And
and
doing
go from there.
them more consistently. And I'm telling
Yeah.
you, yeah, the victim mentality, you're going to start to think nothing is working and then you're not going to do it. And then you're going to throw in the towel, rinse and repeat.
Hmm.
Get serious with it. And then Bailey said, if you want to be 60/40, cool. No one is, oh, that's bad. If you are like, I need to be really flexible, I have a lot going on, I can only do this much. Okay. You're going to lose weight slower. That's fine. But if you're someone who's like, I'm really serious about this, then you need to get really serious with yourself and just have it be less flexible for a tiny bit. It's just that little bit. But I think we all want like just great results with the effort that we want to put in.
Or we want like different results by not doing anything different.
Hmm.
And or it's like we feel like we have to do this extreme thing where it's oh, the fasting. We got to fast in order to get these results. We
Hmm.
have to take this cortisol supplement. We have to have a HTMA test or just different things like that where yes, they can all be useful in certain situations, but you also have to learn the foundations that you can sustain for life too.
Hmm.
I don't know where I was going with that. But
Oh,
yeah,
no, that makes sense. And we've
maybe that's
worked
the
with a
end of
lot
the
of
train.
people. No, that's it. And we've worked with a lot of people who have done HTMA testing. They've done hormone replacement. They're taking very strategic supplements. I'm telling you, if you don't have these basics down, it doesn't really matter. And then I think you feel even more broken.
You know what I find in common from everyone who has done every diet that doesn't work or can't sustain it, or they are working out 3 or 4 times a week, they're getting 8,000 steps in, they did the HTMA test, they're sleeping. I would say the number one thing I am finding consistently, they are under eating and mainly under eating carbs. Very consistently, I am seeing this. We add those carbs in and their workouts start getting a little bit better
Yep.
and they have more energy and their sleep isn't just okay, it's great now. Their thyroid numbers start getting normal. Their insulin
Hmm.
actually drops. I had someone that their insulin dropped by 2.4 over a
That's
few
pretty good.
months,
Hmm.
and that's without a GLP-1, and that's from going to 2200 calories to 2700 calories.
Yeah. The thing we're scared of, which is why
Wild.
decreasing your deficit is not the answer.
All the time.
Well, likely it's not. Yeah.
All right, everyone. We hope this episode was helpful, and we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. So we will talk to you then. Bye.
Bye.